there's a war going on that many people may not be thinking that's going on. It's been going on for decades. You might be aware of it, you might not be aware of it. It's something that is a big deal to some people, but to others it's not that big of a deal. Of course, I'm talking about the Marvel Comics versus DC Comics, which include, for Marvel Comics, is Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, and then X-Men. In X-Men alone, there is Wolverine, Jubilee, Gambit, Professor Xavier, Magneto, Nightcrawler, Beast, so many more. That's with Marvel alone. For DC Comics, you have Batman, Superman, and Watchmen, V for Vendetta. Today I'll be talking about why Marvel Comics is better than DC Comics. And I'll be talking about the different characters, how they are symbolic to how we are today, why Marvel Comics is better because they have made more of a profit, and how they have a better turnover rate for their products. I just demonstrate some of the characters that are in Marvel Comics, such as Spider-Man, X-Men, etc., and they all have superpowers compared to DC Comics, where a lot of their characters, like V for Vendetta, is just a rebel of some sort. He tries to do a lot of chaos. And then you have Spider-Man, who has spidey senses because he got bit by a radioactive spider. X-Men, they are all mutants of some sort from some genetic mutation, and of course it's better. Come on, who doesn't like mutants? I mean, if you have some claws, don't you want to just hit someone with it? Like, that's so much cooler than, like, a suit. I mean, given Batman's awesome. I like Batman, don't get me wrong. But, I mean, compared to Wolverine and his iron claws, who am I going to like better? I think I'm going to go with the iron claws, because at least he can, like, you know, totally kill someone and go through Batman's suit. I mean, iron claws compared to his suit. Let's see, in Dark Knight he got bit by a dog and, like, it hurt. Come on now. I mean, I don't know if you saw Wolverine this weekend, which had made, according to the Mojo.com, made $85 million in its first weekend alone. It was awesome because, like, he went through and cut his sink by accident. I mean, sorry if you haven't seen it. sorry if you haven't seen it. If you haven't, you should totally go see it. It's awesome. So for my next point, I'm going to talk to you about how Marvel Comics has made more money than DC Comics. Marvel, for its overall revenue for Spider-Man, has made $910 million in total. That's for all three of them. For Incredible Hulk, it has made $246 million. For Iron Man, it has made $546 million. And the biggest one that DC Comics has is The Dark Knight, which, given, did have the biggest opening weekend of all time at $154 million. According to BoxOfficeMojo.com, it is the second grossing film of all time. But in the top 20, it has 3 Spider-Mans placed at it, 8, 11, and 16. Those are the spots that it has placed in all time. And then Iron Man came in at 21 as the top grossing films of all time. 4 Marvel Comics are top of grossing films of all time, compared to DC Comics 1, which is The Dark Knight. That's it. And then you have, according to Spike.com, how, given Batman is cooler than Spider-Man, but they have different people fighting against each other, they compared it like Elektra versus Catwoman. I mean, Elektra is cooler because she came back from the dead, and then she tried to become good and everything, but then you have Catwoman, who just had the worst movie of all time. She won like 5 Razzies. Like, come on, dude. I mean, Elektra sucks, but it's better than Catwoman. And then, of course, you have, sorry, I'm blanking right now. Oh, and then you have how Marvel Comics and its overall revenue had made it $260 to $270 million to themselves. That includes all their fees that went out to the actors, etc., etc. And that was just in 2008, according to 4plus.com. And also, according to 4plus.com, it had made, in revenue from its total comic book sales, $135 million in total. I couldn't find anything on DC Comics because they're too embarrassed with the fact that they didn't make as much money as Marvel. Then we have, and my third point is that Marvel has put out more films in the past 10 years than pretty much DC Comics has ever put out. In the past 10 years, Marvel has come out with 20 different types of movies. And that includes the 3 Spider-Man, the 2 Fantastic Four, 2 Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, Wolverine, there are like 4 X-Men movies now, by the way, and they already have another one in production along with Iron Man, which is coming out in 2011. DC Comics have put out 6 movies, which are Catwoman, Batman, The Dark Knight, Watchmen, V for Vendetta, and that's about it. And some of those really suck, like Watchmen. Come on. So, in conclusion, Marvel Comics is better because they have a better overall rating for different types of characters, because everyone can find a comic book that they like in Marvel Comics. So you don't have as many, you have more of a variety in Marvel Comics as opposed to DC Comics, where you have 6 maybe decent ones, which includes League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which is kind of sucky because you have to know what the story is behind them. If you don't know the story, then you can't follow it. And at least in Marvel Comics, you can always follow what's going on with them. Thank you. Oh, here's my outline.
So, Erin, what did you think?
I liked the topic. She was kind of fast, but I'm pretty sure she knows that. It was good structure, even though it was kind of fast-paced. She did a good job with her eye contact and like the minimal use of notes. So kind of like you could tell she was quite passionate about it, and the topic was good. So I'm pretty sure most of us were quite engaged.
Okay. All right, Kelsey. I like the way you introduce the topic. You make a very clear statement of what you're going to talk about. There's a little bit of a preview. I think you need to give yourself an expanded argument on the criteria that we're going to evaluate. If we're going to evaluate them on, the one is superior based on economic success, based on character diversity, based on quality of story or something like that, then make sure that you explain, for instance, the last two. I think the last ones were a little bit conclusionary. Now, the box office success stuff, you do a very good job providing us with examples and factual data to show that the Marvel comics have been more successful at generating revenue from box office. Of course, I'm not sure what your cutoff date was. You mentioned the last few years, and so that would be one of those things that pops up in a critical thinking discussion. Over the years, if we started when they first came on the scene, or if we are limiting it to the last 10 years, the last 20 years, how do we measure those things? I think there might be some differences. Because, Batman and Superman generated a lot of revenues back when they were crappy TV shows. And I'm not sure how we would measure any of that. But I like the idea that you've got there. On the stories, for instance, I think that you're enjoying making some of the comparisons about the characters, like you talk about Wolverine sticking his claws into Batman. That's an interesting sort of situation, but it doesn't really do much to develop an evaluation of the qualities or the things that would draw people into one set of characters or the other. I would imagine the reason people identify with Batman is vastly different than the reason people would identify or be interested in some of the other superhero stories. And so the comparison that you're making there, I'm not sure that it works as well as it ought to. I think if you're stuck with analogies between the powers of different real beings, like Superman being somebody who actually has superpowers as opposed to, Batman, who is, basically fighting with his equipment and his personal skills, versus like Wolverine, who's got the mutant powers and that kind of thing. It's interesting. You're having fun with the subject, and I appreciate that. So, don't be discouraged about that, because I thought you got into that. I just think you needed a little bit more to make it more substantive. It's kind of a fun comparison that you're making, and you stop there, and I think you could have gotten more out of it. The presentation, you already know that you were rushing. That's where all of your anxiety comes out. It's speed, and you're trying to get done as fast as you possibly can. Very good audience contact. I thought that your involvement in the presentation was pretty solid. And let me tell you, Wolverine, in comparison to Watchmen, you've got to be kidding me. Wolverine sucked. It was terrible. It was terrible.